benchmark so it doesn't continue on for another year? Whenever you do this, we split it and send students over there. Is that what's going to happen again, and then do we have to reapply again? How is that going to work?
I think when you're looking at growth towards benchmarks, you use that as one lens in looking at multiple measures that are needed to gauge progress. So that indeed would be one of other measures to look at a small school success, and it would be important for us to be very clear about those metrics and what would be looked at comprehensively and not one just in isolation.
So how do the departments that don't have CST, how do you look at that?
I'm sorry, the departments, we had a question right over here. She's had her hand up. Yes.
Is the 50% rehire, is that going to apply to Libra, to social justice, or is it only going to apply to the departments?
Right now, Libra is a pilot school. It is not. The School of Social Justice is one of the 6 small schools, so indeed that process does apply. Yes, can you rephrase or repeat your question?
You know, looking at the 5 points that the superintendent has picked out, and the whole thing with, the whole idea is about CST. What do you do with the departments that don't have any type of periodic assessment? What are their benchmarks? How are they going to meet them? What is the evaluation of those departments? What about the seniors who don't even take CST? If I teach government and econ, does that mean I don't have to worry about those things, or how does that fit in?
I don't think we've mentioned CST scores at all, or at least I know I have not today. However, we've looked at other benchmarks such as performance assessments. They're also, pardon me? I understand that. So then there are other assessments. I just addressed the question that the gentleman here over asked about looking at multiple measures. And there are indeed going to be departments that don't have the district's core periodic assessments. But you have common CFAs, common formulative assessments that are developed by that in your professional learning community and or your department in order to determine how well your students are progressing and how to go back, modify your instruction, and being able to scaffold it for your students. So we would look at not just those districts' periodic assessments for your core areas, but knowing there are departments that don't have them, look at the development and the teacher input of your common formulative assessments as well as attendance, grade markings, etc. I think you've not had an opportunity here, and then Lori, go right ahead.
Are you going to offer art next year at Huntington Park?
Yes, there should be part of the master schedule, and we do understand that Huntington Park High School, unfortunately, as many of our schools have, our art department has received notices. So that would be part of the master schedule for the small learning communities and or for the small schools. Yes, Lori?
For the SLCs, you said there's going to be 4 on D track and 1 BAPA on A track. Will those SLCs be combined with the SLCs that we currently have and the lead teachers selected all according to the union contract, which outlines specifically how that's to be done?
We will be working with Human Resources and Staff Relations to adhere to the collective bargaining agreement. Certainly.
The circumstance you're describing is a little different. If we were looking at a situation where we're collapsing SLCs.
Sorry.
All right. I'm not going to dance, though. Where if we were collapsing SLCs or there's some kind of reduction in enrollment that would cause the movement of teachers or the elimination of SLCs for that reason alone, then yes, Article 8 does clue into Article 1116.0. Sorry for the contract stuff, but in this case, because it's a restructuring, it's a different process entirely. So it's not about the SLCs per se. The plan exists, and then the reapplication process occurs, and then it's staffed. And if after that point there has to be a contraction or collapse, then we get right back into the collective bargaining agreement. Yes?
Okay, so what about the selection of the lead teachers? It's very clear that those are to be an elected position according to the contract.
Well, I mean, it's conceivable, and there are a number of ways to look at it, but if one were to select teachers for an SLC and not designate one as lead, that one could be elected subsequent to the selection of staff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but the principal's already called people in and basically promised lead positions to certain teachers, which is a direct violation of the contract.
Well, from what I understand, what's being described right now, all of that is moot.
Oh, we're not going to have lead teachers in our
No.
SLCs?
I'm sorry, what you just alleged about being promised positions, that's moot.
Well, then how will the lead teachers in these 4 B-track SLCs and 1 A-track SLC be selected?
Well, as I said, I imagine after they're staffed up, that they would then select a lead teacher from amongst themselves.
So I'm confused. Now, teachers are going to be applying to a small school, but these small schools, my understanding is, except for one Institute of Applied Medicine or whatever, which is going to be 4 grade levels, all the rest are 2 grade levels, 9th and 10th grade. So you're basically going to be staffing, even though they're starting in 9th and 10th grade, you're going to be staffing each of those schools 9 through 12, even though you won't be using the 11th and 12th grade teachers?
I'm sorry, is there a question there?
Yes, the question is are you going to be interviewing 9 through 12 teachers to staff a complete 9 through 12 school, when my understanding, according to the network of 21st century schools, they're starting with 9th and 10th grade only.
But in terms of credentialing, unless you have people who are on supplementals, they should be credentialed to teach 9 through 12.
But that's not my question. My question is Mr. Grossi, you said that we're going to be applying to teach in one of the small schools.
Right.
The small schools are starting in grades 9 and 10, is that correct?
That is correct, and so staff would be selected to teach the first year, 9, 10, and every year we know that it would grow.
Correct. So then what about those teachers that will be teaching 11th and 12th graders? Are they also going to be hired under a small school, though they're not going to be put into use particularly? They're going to be teaching the 4 B-track SLCs and the 1 A-track SLCs. How does that apply? Who are they applying to? Are those 11th and 12th grade teachers applying to a small school to be hired?
Yes, they're applying to a small learning community in the application process.
And then that gets back to my question about who would they be applying for and how would these be put together? You're just going to be able to put them together? And will there be an election for the lead teacher, which is specified by the contract?
Once staff has been selected and the SLCs that have been recommended and the small schools that have been recommended, as are outlined in the 21st Century Network Plan, have been approved by the board, there'll be an opportunity for staff to apply to either the small schools or the SLCs on B-track that will accommodate our 11th and 12th graders.
So there would be someone that's going to be coordinating the SLCs, and so they would be the ones that would be hiring people in those SLCs?
There will be an interview committee to interview staff that are interested in applying in the specific SLCs. And once the board has approved the selection of the SLCs that have been recommended, that will be shared with staff. And actually, that will be online as of Thursday.
People in.
We have a couple of questions here from the staff that have not had an opportunity. Yes. Are all of these positions going to be advertised, Ms. Ignagni, or will it be in-house first? So we want to ensure that we're following the appropriate procedure.
The first stage of the process will be open to current HP staff only. So it won't be until everyone here who's interested and applies goes through the interview process and those decisions are made. It won't be until that process is complete that we open it up to outsiders. Now you all know that we have a very severe reduction in force this year. So initially, The only subjects that will be open to brand new employees to LA Unified will most likely be chemistry and physics, because it's just about the only two subjects we didn't lay off teachers in. Other than that, we will invite teachers from other schools, teachers who are interested in transfers. We have a lot of schools next year who will be losing staff because of declining enrollment, because of loss of federal funds where they can't purchase additional positions anymore. So that would be the first pool of teachers. But that won't be until anyone here who wants the opportunity to interview has had that opportunity.
Thank you. There was another hand over here, right back here first.
Who will be, what's the criteria for the selection committee?
The criteria for the hiring of teachers that will be used, the criteria used by the selection committee is...
No.
What is the criteria for putting together the selection committee? And what will that committee consist of? Who will be on that committee? How big will that committee be?
That will be local, that will be determined by the local district office. That decision has not yet been made. Our first task is to look at the selection of the administrative staff. Once the board approves the plan, and that will be done expeditiously because that will be the driver for developing the committees for teacher selection to the small schools and to the small labor communities.
As a follow-up to that, would the selection committee probably consist of administrators or other teachers?
It generally consists of a multidisciplinary group of both administrators, retired administrators, teachers, classified staff, parents, community. Yes.
Basically, in the restructuring process, this is a little bit more than restructuring. It's almost like you're starting up something totally new. If half of the staff is also going to be new, when there's an opening in an elected position in the middle of the year, usually someone is appointed. I don't see how we can vote on someone if we don't know them, because everybody's just starting off. So where she was talking about lead teachers and whatnot, will those positions be appointed versus elected?
The lead teacher positions, the question is, would they be appointed as well as selected?
Versus elected.
Versus elected for the small learning communities.
No, I think that's the same answer we get. They would have to be elected.
They would have to be elected and following the procedure that's already established in the collective bargaining agreement. That would be any coordinator position, small learning community, the leads, etc. That's why it's important to bring the staff on board first. Yes.
Yes. When do we know if in the new school year, am I going to work on track A? I'm currently a track A teacher, and I make plans for this summer with my family. When do I know if I can keep my plans or I have to cancel my plans because I'm going to be on track C or B?
Once the board approves the plan, basically the schools that are listed on A-Track, I mentioned, are VAPA as an SLC, the Applied Medicine is a small school, as well as, which is 912, and then the School of Social Justice, San Pedro. So it would be, if you were not applying for one of those small schools or SLCs, then you would be on either B-Track or C-Track.
Now my second question is complementing Ms. Warford's question. I'm teaching chemistry and physics, and the students that I'm teaching are 11th and 12th grade. Do I apply to a small school,
Yes.
21st century school, or do I apply to a small learning community? Because the population I'm teaching, it's 11th and 12th grade next
There
year.
are 4 small learning communities with 11th and 12th graders on B-Track. So that would give you an indication of...
That I would be on B-Track.
You would be on B-Track.
If I teach those subjects.
Yes, unless on the School of Applied Medicine, I know there are 9th and 12th graders. There's a school there that serves 9-12 on A-Track.
Oh, but applied medicine also
It's 912. That's what I just shared. It's 912. So there would be that option for A track or B
So we can
track.
always apply a deeper, they can start in 11th grade.
They are starting 11th grade for the new school year. Going forward. Yes.
I'm going off track, and I'm sure other C-tractors have already made plans, and they'll be traveling out of town. How will we be informed about what decisions go down and what happens, and the short timelines for applications and so on?
I can see 3 ways: by email, by connected message, and by regular U.S. mail, by telephone, in order to ensure that our C-track teachers are informed and updated regarding the decisions, as I know that that may impact, or you would want to know in order to be able to make whatever decisions are necessary. That would be, we would keep you updated, any one of those, utilizing all of those means.
Do you notice, LaGrossa, if in the plan coming out on Thursday, there is any timelines for applications that C-track could look at to begin planning for?
There are none, but I can assure you, Lori, that as soon as that's developed, we'll ensure that C-track, being off, will have immediate access to it. Yes.
I'm also C-track, so basically what you're saying is, also any plans that involve being out of town, or not. In terms of, okay, if I need to come for an interview and I have to travel, say to Nigeria for a shop, so I can't do that until everything is
Can we work individually with individuals who are going out of the country? We can certainly look at other means of being able to keep you updated regarding the progress and the timelines, but why don't we talk later, so you can let us know what your plans are. If you're traveling out of the country, we certainly understand that, and then we can ensure that we keep you updated regarding the timeline. So this is an opportunity for us to, yes, sir.
Will the teacher be able to apply to more than one of the school?
Apply to more than one, I would think so, absolutely. As this gives us the opportunity to do what, and being part of a transformation of Huntington Park High School, from starting with a foundation that's going to connect students in small personalized settings, embedded accountabilities that we're clear about, with clear expectations, and a parent engagement piece that I know is going to be a meaningful one so that parents are working with us as partners. I see that as what I see for the future of Huntington Park High School. I shared earlier, this is like a Herculean task to get this done in 2 months, but if it's the only thing that we do from the local district office and working with our central offices to get this done, that's the commitment that you have from me and the commitment that I know you have from our staff in the local district office. Because there isn't going to be anything more important than ensuring that come July 5th, that the structures and the staffing, nothing more important than the staffing and the placement of students is going to take precedence. We'll take one more question. Yes.
Yes, this would be a question for human resources.
A question for human resources.
Yes.
So, since 50% or more than 50% of the people are definitely not going to be coming back, my question is, and in the face of all the rifts that have been happening, what is the district's position in terms of our next paycheck? All right, so one, if we're not selected to come back, or if we opt not to come back and work with a thin contract, and we're out interviewing and going through interview processes with other schools, are we considered employed or unemployed?
If you're a continuing employee with the district, if you have not been subject to reduction in force, your salary will not be impacted. Remember, we're all on annualized salary now, so You will get a check in August, you will get a check in September, because you are a continuing employee. What typically happens is if school is about to start and we have not yet found assignments for everyone, we are obliged to assign you to a school because you're a continuing employee with the district. In those situations, we will place you in a temporary pool location and assign you to a school. So you would not be like a day-to-day sub where you would be here one day, there the next day. You would be assigned to a school. You would go to that school every day. And during that time, you would continue interviewing as other vacancies come up. Yes?
Then in terms of retirement, I mean, is that sort of like being in a sub-pool? Are we all like that?
Absolutely not. You are still a contracted teacher. You're not considered a substitute at all.
So that would not...
It would not affect STIRS, your years of service, right.
I'm sure that at this time, the questions that you have, you've exhausted those that you've thought of right now, perhaps. But there are going to be many more, probably as soon as you leave, as you're driving home. So I do want you to feel free to email them to me, to see Mr. Castillo. He can get them to us, or to email me directly, so that we can ensure that we're getting the correct answers to you as quickly as possible.
And your email address is?
I was just waiting to share that. It is on the LAUSD net. It's Rowena, R-O-W-E-N-A, .lagrosa, L-A-G-R-O-S-A, at lausd.net. So with that,